Good morning and afternoon or evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Justin Osborne. On behalf of the Board of Directors, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the 2022 Annual General Meeting for Matador Mining Limited. We're delighted to have you here with us today, both in person and online. Given the location of our shareholders and the ongoing health concerns attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic, and in addition to guidelines and restrictions issued by the Australian state and federal governments, the company considers that it is appropriate to hold its 2022 AGM as a hybrid meeting in a manner consistent with the temporary modifications to the Corporate Act 2001, introduced by the Commonwealth Treasurer. It's now 9 AM, and as I'm advised by the Company Secretary that the quorum is present, I declare the 2022 Annual General Meeting of Matador Mining Limited open. Firstly, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. Pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. And we extend that respect to the traditional custodians of the lands on which our online participants join us, to all the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and to all other persons with us here today. I would like to welcome you all and thank you for your interest in the company by way of your attendance today, whether it be in person or virtually. For those of you who don't know me, as I introduced earlier, my name is Justin Osborne. I'm the non-executive chair of Matador Mining Limited, and I'll be chairing today's meeting. I assumed the role of chair on the 1st of August this year after serving as non-executive director of your board since 2020, June. I thank my fellow board members and our management team for the warm welcome they showed me in coming into this role, and for the continued dedication and focus they all apply to advancing Matador's interests on your behalf as shareholders of the company. I'd like to now introduce my fellow board members. We have our Managing Director and CEO, Sam Bazuki, and our non-executive directors, Nicole Adsett-Bell and Kerry Sparks. Sam and Kerry are attending virtually via Zoom from Toronto and St John's in Canada, respectively. And Nikki is attending virtually via Zoom from Brazil. Our company secretaries, Carol Marinkovic and Brian Scott, along with Warren Popper, our Chief Geologist, are all here present in Perth, while our CFO, David Gerby, who is based in Canada, and our Vice President Exploration, Crispin Pike, also based in Canada, are both present virtually. Also in attendance today, we have in Perth with us here, we have Flynn Mitchell from the company's share registry, Atomic Issuer Services, who will conduct the voting, and Pierre Dreyer from Ernst & Young, who are our company auditors. Today I'll be providing an address to the shareholders and will then proceed with the formal business of the meeting. At the conclusion of the meeting, there will be a company presentation given by Managing Director and CEO Sam Bazuki, followed by an opportunity to speak with the board of management. As this meeting is being conducted both physically in Perth and as a virtual meeting, I welcome those shareholders that are joining us via Zoom, and I ask that you please submit any questions or comments that you may have via the Q&A function, which you can see at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Please start your question by typing your shareholder SRN or HIN. This will allow the moderator to identify you as a shareholder. If you would like to ask your question verbally, please again type your SRN or HIN number and then type I would like to speak. Once you have finished typing, you can hit enter on the keyboard and send your request. When you submit a question or comment, please start by typing the specific resolution number it relates to so that it can be addressed at the appropriate time in the meeting. Questions which relate to the general business of the company will be collected and addressed after the close of formal business of the meeting. Thank you. Now that we've welcomed you and all covered off on the housekeeping, I would like to move on to my company address. First, I would like to kick things off with a thank you to Ian Murray, both personally and on behalf of the board and the Matador team. Ian retired from the board of Matador and the company on the 31st of October this year. I give thanks to Ian for his dedicated service to the company over a challenging 2.5 years, where we were confronted by the full force of the COVID-19 pandemic, overlaying on a project which has its own considerable geographic obstacles. Ian proved to be an effective and passionate leader of the company, initially as executive chair and latterly as a non-exec director. With its trademark enthusiasm, Ian established a new independent board and repositioned Matador with a revised strategy, which, while not forgetting the existing company resource and development projects, focused on unlocking the enduring value of the untapped potential of this project. This untapped discovery potential of Cape Ray is one in which Ian remains a passionate and supportive believer of. Ian has moved on to some other exciting companies, and I wish him well in his new endeavours. I'd also like to thank Mick Wilkes for his contribution as a non-exec director from July 2020, following his retirement from the board in May of this year to pursue other new opportunities of his own. It's a great opportunity now to also thank our stakeholders in their area of operations, being Newfoundland, Canada. This includes the very supportive Newfoundland and Labrador government, town councils of Port aux Basques, Isle of Mort, Burnt Islands and Rose Blanche, and the Miapapek and Halapu First Nations groups. I thank them for their respective interests, assistance, collaboration and support they have shown and provided to the company and our project and their in-country contractors and advisors. Since our last AGM, we have welcomed Sam Pazuki onto the board as Managing Director and CEO, and Kerry Sparks as Non-Exec Director. Sam joined us after nearly a decade with Oceana Gold Corporation, bringing a tremendous corporate background and deep understanding of the Canadian and Australian markets we are operating in. With Kerry joining the board, we have added over 30 years of highly varied geological and corporate experience and wisdom, with significant discovery success, including the world-class Ovoid deposit, which is part of Vale's Voisey Bay nickel mine in Labrador. Kerry provides a fabulous Canadian corporate pedigree. Over the last year, the company has completed drilling on our Brownfields Cape Ray project areas, in parallel to collecting the critically important base data sets required to advance exploration in this highly prospective greenfields tenements. A 2021 Canadian summer drilling campaign produced more than 21,000 metres of diamond core from 2 drilling rigs and samples from over 2,200 geochemical locations collected using a combination of power auger and man-portable devices. We also conducted our inaugural winter drilling program with almost 6,000 metres of drilling completed with tremendous safety record and superb efficiency, proving that we can work throughout the year when required. Geological and resource modelling remains ongoing on all of our brownfields projects, with updated resource models expected in 2023. The combined efforts of our exploration, data gathering and compilation, minimal and modern mineral systems targeting work has identified one of our greenfields targets, malachite, as being of the greatest immediate prospectivity. The exciting malachite target, a very large target in its own right, lies approximately 40 kilometres northeast of the advanced central zone deposits. A complex array of structures and geological features considered ideal for gold deposit formation were initially interpreted from the detailed magnetic data we acquired in early 2021. A comprehensive glacial till sampling program then yielded multiple gold anomalies of regional scale, with gold grain samples containing some of the highest grain counts ever recorded in Newfoundland, and across an area larger in size than the footprint of the Marathon Gold's nearby 5 million ounce malachite deposit. On the strength of the data generated across our extensive tenement holdings, we pivoted our strategy in May of this year to fully focus our exploration activities and budget on greenfields targets, predominantly being malachite. By June, the team had swiftly mobilised to carry out geological mapping, prospecting and sampling to identify specific areas to direct our first phase of greenfields diamond drill target testing. The results of this exploration field campaign exceeded our expectations. By early October, we were able to commence the drilling program at Malachite. This modest program aimed to test 3 priority targets where field work identified extensive areas of outcropping sulphide, quartz veining and hydrothermal alteration. Drilling has only just wrapped up for the season and drill assays are expected in early 2023. In parallel to the diamond drilling, we continued our prospecting, mapping and sampling on other prioritised areas to continue building our pipeline of targets ahead of future drill programs. This included our first on-ground reconnaissance of the Hermitage project to the southeast of Cape Ray which hosts some compelling geological readings. It was a challenging year for the exploration team in coming out of the COVID-19 protocols, which restricted activities over the previous 2 years. But it was one which they made great strides in developing the fundamental geological understandings of our project areas. With the addition of industry-based data sets, new drilling information, and establishment of first-rate exploration team in country, we have full confidence that the team is now on the cusp of making the type of large-scale discovery we all hope for in this essentially untouched frontier jurisdiction. The last year has also been a tough one and a tough market for gold equities. Despite the difficult conditions, Matador has received strong investors' interest and successfully completed a capital raising in July, raising $5 million through a share placement to institutional, professional and sophisticated investors. Several major investors participated including 2 new and prominent North American resource funds. In addition to participation by some of the company's largest existing shareholders, our concurrent share purchase plan raised an additional $2.9 million from a demand for $3.9 million after initially seeking to raise only $1 million, demonstrating the great faith from our existing shareholder base, and we thank you very much. Finally, in late October, we were very pleased to welcome B2 Gold as a strategic investor into Matador, raising an additional $3.6 million. B2 Gold is a Canadian headquartered company with a long history of creating shareholder value through identifying, acquiring, constructing and operating gold projects globally, and doing so to the highest of standards financially, environmentally and socially. This investment is the first time B2 Gold have made a strategic placement of this nature into a junior company. And we look forward to their partnership in our exploration program in Newfoundland, which we believe demonstrates their confidence in the gold potential of our extensive exploration package, our tenement, our greenfield exploration strategy, and our systematic approach to discovery. Most significantly, we believe it shows significant support of our exploration team we have in place to create long-term shareholder value. The board would like to thank all shareholders for continued support. While it has been a challenging couple of years, I'm confident that with our renewed strategy, a good financial liquidity, and our talented board and management teams, that we can participate and anticipate an exciting period ahead. We all look forward to keeping you updated as we continue to discover our discovery quest in Newfoundland. Thank you. Over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Justin. So as Justin indicated, I'll walk through a few slides we have just to provide some overview on the company, and as well as some of the exploration programs underway or completed in Newfoundland. So if we can move to the next slide, please. Just a disclaimer, I will be making some forward-looking statements, and there is no guarantee of the outcome related to those forward-looking statements. So I do turn the audience attention to this disclaimer to read at your leisure. Next slide, please. So Matador has, I'd say, one of the strongest boards and management teams in the industry. I'm privileged to be part of this story. I'm privileged to have joined 6 months ago, or 6.5 months ago. We have a very talented board of directors who have delivered significant value for shareholders during their careers, and continue to do so in their current roles with Matador, as well as the other companies that they're involved with. As Justin had previously introduced the team, Justin is obviously well known in Australia, having worked at Gold Road previously and at Goldfields prior to that, as well as serving as director at Independence Group, Hamlin Gold, and Astral Resources. Kerry Sparks is native of Newfoundland, lives in St. John's, has a significant track record of mineral exploration, both through discovery as well as commercial, having been in some significant roles, including Vice President Geology for Franco-Nevada, and currently serving as director for Orion Resources, which is exploring an area that's quite similar to what we're exploring in Newfoundland, but in Finland, specifically for Orion. And Dr. Nicole Atchett-Bell, Nikki, as most people know her, has a significant experience in capital markets, having worked on both the buy side and the sell side. I've had the fortunate opportunity to know Nikki over the past 10 years, and she's significant value add to the companies that she's been a part of, including Matador, and she's currently involved with a number of different companies as listed there. In addition to the board, we've got a very strong management team, as I've mentioned. Justin has gone through sort of my background, having spent the last 10 years at Oceana Gold, moving over to Matador 6.5 months ago. Really saw the tremendous opportunity and potential of Matador, exploring in an area that has seen very little in terms of exploration, particularly in the greenfields, in what I consider to be a top jurisdiction for mining globally. I'm well supported with a very strong technical team. Warren Potma, who's our chief geologist based in Australia, is there physically in the room with Justin and Carol and the team. Crispin Pike is our VP of Discovery based in Newfoundland. So a critical component of Matador, a critical component of the exploration team, and the person that's leading the charge on the ground with the talented exploration geologists we have working for us, looking to make those big gold discoveries. Next page, please. Just an overview in terms of what most people know of our capital structure, the mineral endowment that we currently have defined, and financial overview. So some of these numbers will be subject to change given the results of the AGM, and will be updated as part of a December corporate presentation update. I'm pleased to say that we've got a very strong shareholder base. Justin mentioned the support that we've seen over the last couple of years, more recently with the recent capital raise. I'd say for a company of our size, I'm pretty impressed with the shareholder register that we do have, which is comprised of some very significant long-term thinking, resource-specific institutional funds, as well as a strong group of retail investors who understand the world we live in, exploration, the work that's required to make big discoveries, and the support they've shown us, and me specifically, over the last 6 months in terms of shifting the strategy and focusing more on making big greenfield discoveries in Newfoundland. Next page, please. So Newfoundland and Labrador is a mining jurisdiction. There's a significant history here in terms of iron ore, nickel mining in Labrador. And more recently, there's been what I'd like to call as a gold rush into the island of Newfoundland, with a lot more investment, a lot more drilling, a lot more activity for exploration discovery on the island. I'd still, when you look at Newfoundland and compare it to other established mining jurisdictions, such as the ones in Western Australia and Quebec and broader Canada, Australia, US, etc., Newfoundland is underexplored, and that's the potential that we see in the belt that we're on, which is the largest structure, gold-bearing structure on the island, as well as some other significant explorers on the island looking for major discoveries. So we are well situated in Newfoundland, a jurisdiction that the Fraser Institute had ranked number 11 globally as part of their survey. But again, I consider it to be one of the top jurisdictions for mining, with a very supportive group of stakeholders, a government that's not just supportive in our ears and to the industry's ears, but are very vocally supportive to all stakeholders, and they advocate very strongly for their desire to have a responsible mining industry that is growing in Newfoundland, and we certainly are supportive of that ourselves. It's a workforce that I've had a fortunate opportunity to work with over my career in the oil and gas industry. A lot of the skilled workforce is had to move away from Newfoundland, where the opportunities are in, say, Western Canada and the oil patch. The emergence of mining in Newfoundland and the work that we're doing, the work that many of our peers are doing, the advancement of projects in Newfoundland give Newfoundlanders an opportunity to return home, and we are certainly seeing that. And I would rank the Newfoundland workforce as some of the best that there is for the resource extractives industry. So we are well positioned in terms of, as we advance our project forward, to be able to tap into that resource pool. And from an infrastructure perspective, Newfoundland is blessed with a significant and abundant amount of natural resources, including hydropower, There are major roads that cut through the island and the Trans-Canada Highway specifically. Our field office is in an area called Port aux Basques, a small town on the southwest corner, which links up with the Trans-Canada Highway and is a major seaport, which receives a lot of the supplies that the province sees. So basically, arrives at the port and gets distributed out to the different communities in Newfoundland. So very strong from that perspective, which obviously becomes helpful when as we advance our project forward. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned, we're certainly well positioned in Newfoundland. We've got 120 kilometers of continuous strike on the same structure that hosts Marathon Gold's 5 million ounces and our 840,000 ounces that are currently defined. That's along what's called the Cape Ray Shear, again, which is the major gold-bearing structure on the island that cuts the island in half, as you can see there from the image. We also have another project called the Hermitage project, which sits on the Hermitage flexure. It's the second largest gold-bearing structure, which, as you can see there, follows a different orientation than most of the other structures in Newfoundland. And Hermitage sits on the same structure that Newfound Gold is currently exploring, and Newfound has the largest market cap on the island currently. We are when we look at ourselves relative to our peer group, we have a defined resource. We're only one of 4 companies that has a gold resource, so we are well positioned from that perspective, and that certainly does underpin the value in the company. And we're obviously been working to make new discoveries and grow that resource over time. Next slide, please. Justin has already articulated B2Gold's investment, and certainly we've received shareholder support for their involvement with the Matador story. As Justin mentioned, this is the first time B2Gold has decided to make a strategic placement in a company. We've welcomed their involvement. We welcome their investment. They're a premier gold company in the industry, one of the best. And whether it's B2 or the company that the management team had prior to B2Gold, which was called Bema Gold, they've created significant value for shareholders in both companies. And it's interesting also that this investment in Matador is the first time that B2 has made any investment in any company or any project in Canada, whether it was at Bema Gold or at B2Gold. And so again, this is a significant outcome for Matador and for Newfoundland specifically. It also marks the first time in almost 2 decades that we've seen a major mining company make a direct investment in Newfoundland. So again, it's great for Matador shareholders. It's great for our business as we're looking to move forward and make major discoveries. It's great for Canada and great for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. And as I mentioned, B2Gold is a significant gold producer, produces about 1 million ounces of gold annually through 3 operations. The Fekola mine in Mali, the Masbate mine in the Philippines, and Otjikoto, which is in Namibia. They are highly skilled company. They're great at exploration and have made major discoveries, continue to make major discoveries. They have an in-house development team, so they go in and build their own projects, so they have that capability and that experience in-house. And they're one of the best operators in the industry, having worked at Oceana Gold and being familiar with the company's peers, understand who does what well. They are certainly considered one of the best operators in the gold mining industry, and certainly one that operates to the highest of standards, both financially, environmentally, and socially. So we welcome B2Gold's involvement, and we look forward in partnership to make major discoveries in Newfoundland. Next slide, please. Our 2022 exploration program has seen us pivot strategy. I joined on the 1st of May. I saw the potential that we had at Malachite, which was one of the first targets that we are going to or have gone to from a greenfields exploration perspective. I saw that the company had continued to explore around the brownfields, had a plan to continue to do more drilling around the brownfields. And where the resource is what I deem as the brownfields. And if you actually look at the history of the Cape Ray Gold project before Matador, it's all sort of been the same, where a junior company gets a little bit of money, goes to where they know there's gold to get some drill results so they can go back out to the market to get more money and do more drilling and continue that cycle until basically the capital runs out. And we've seen that a few times from companies that have been on the Cape Ray Gold Project. I saw the opportunity here to really move the dial and drive the value of the business over the long term, but by making going out to the greenfields and making major discoveries along, again, 120 kilometers of continuous strike in a prolific gold belt, plus the Hermitage project. That's why I came here to Matador, and that's what I believe is what's going to drive the value of the business going forward. And we went through the funding period during the summertime, and so we wanted to continue to do work while we were going through that process. And so the team of the excellent geologists we've got at Matador were dispatched to the greenfield sites to look at the best targets that we had identified and done some work on, from the geophysics that was completed a year and a half ago, from the gold grain analysis that was completed about a year ago, with the results coming in the first, second quarter of this year. And they went basically back to grassroots, did some prospecting, sampling, and mapping, all of which was designed to identify and delineate specific areas in which we could take a diamond drill rig and do some drilling. And we have been drilling since the beginning of October, and the map there shows specifically where we've been targeting, and that's based on the work that had been previously done, as well as the prospecting, the sampling work that was completed in the summertime as well, Canadian summer, that is. In addition to malachite, we've got a number of targets. We've got a number of malachites in the portfolio. We are keen to do some, again, prospecting and sampling work to further define the belt and identify other targets that we have that we would like to do some future drilling on. Specifically Bunker Hill, which is an area to the east of malachite. It's actually larger than malachite, where we've had some boots on the ground to do some prospecting work, and then Grandy's, which is adjacent also to malachite, but to the southwest. So again, there's no shortage of targets at Matador, and we'll take our systematic approach to exploration to, again, define targets, to do some proper drilling, to ensure we're getting the right return on invested capital, recognizing that there's no guarantees in exploration, but being mindful of the capital that shareholders have given to us, and ensuring that the dollars we're spending are designed to create that long-term value growth of the business. Next slide, please. A little bit more information here on malachite. So again, this is prior to me joining. The company had gone out, done a high-resolution aeromagnetic geophysics survey, which you can see here in that image. A lot of detail, and it's a 40-kilometer corridor, basically, which again is just part of the 120 kilometers of continuous strike we have on the Cape Ray Shear. But in this area here, which is basically from where the resource is up to that major bend, which is at malachite, there's certainly a number of targets through there. But malachite obviously was picked up from this detailed aeromagnetic survey, and the team was dispatched about a year ago, to basically carpet this area with gold grain analysis. And the results of that analysis came back in the first half of this year. And if we look on the next slide, this is what we released to the market in terms of the gold grain analysis, the pie charts representing the number of gold grains in the different samples that were taken across this very vast area, which again, I'll point out that this area is larger than Marathon Gold's 5 million ounces that currently hosts the 5 million ounces. And from a gold in soil perspective, this big area, 60 square kilometer area, is oozing gold in soils. Again, we've gone back in there to do prospecting work, which has yielded some very interesting results. And we use those results to then define specific areas in which we would diamond drill, and that diamond drilling program is currently underway. So if we move over to the next slide. Part of the work that we've been doing this summer, and again, the team was very busy this summer doing this prospecting and sampling work. It's certainly not a trivial feat. They traversed about 22 kilometers of ground, so they covered a large area on foot. And again, the results were incredible. The image on the right is basically the map that the company had prior to this prospecting work this summer. This is a government map based on historical information, outdated historical information. But you can see there wasn't a lot of detail here in terms of the different structures and orientations, etc. But the team was very successful in their prospecting work, was able to upgrade that map, which is reflected on the image on the left. And again, this information, which will continue to evolve as we get to better understand malachite, because again, it's early days. We use this map to define the specific areas we want to drill. It's helping us with where we are targeting to do further exploration work, which would be part of our 2023 plans. Next slide, please. And the brownfields, again, the brownfields exploration work that was done previously, as Justin had mentioned, there's been the drilling programs that were focused on these different areas at Central and Window Glass Hill, Big Pond, etc. We haven't abandoned this brownfields area. We've just changed our focus. We've pivoted greenfields. We've gone to malachite. Malachite seems very interesting to us. Again, malachite is one of several targets that we have in the portfolio. And prior to, well, I guess I should say, while I was going through the process with the board of directors, the recruitment process, that is, I did see the potential of this belt. In a way, I had my M&A hat on in terms of looking, if I was, mid-tier looking for opportunities, looking at Matador specifically, what is it that would be of interest to a company, to a mid-tier company or a large company? And that was the potential, and I should say, and investors as well. And that's the potential of the greenfields. We still have opportunities here in the brownfields to grow the resource. We've got a number of targets that haven't been drilled. The resource corridor is 12 kilometers, and there's certainly several gaps in those 12 kilometers for us to go back and do some additional work. But right now, again, as I mentioned, we've got to look elsewhere. We got to see what we have on the belt. We got to look at these other opportunities that we have, which we believe will have the potential anyways to move the dial for shareholders. And I'll emphasize that whatever decisions we make is geared to making that to grow the business over the long term. That's why we're here. We're looking to add significant value over the long term. And the brownfields is part of the story, but the greenfields right now is a big part of our story. It's what's drawn in some of the investors that participated in the recent capital raise. Mainly the two large specific resource-specific funds that was part of the capital raise. It's what attracted B2Gold to the Matador. It's the greenfields potential. And again, we're not moving away or walking away at all from this brownfields. There is opportunity here, but our focus is on the greenfields. Next slide, please. And Hermitage is another project that, as I mentioned, we have within the portfolio. It's an exciting project. It's 27 kilometers in strike, so it's another large area in which we can go and explore. For the first time ever, we had boots on the ground in late August and September to do some prospecting and sampling work. I should point out that the results of the samples, the assays on the samples and drill holes are still pending. So we are looking to provide an update to the market once we get the samples back from either the Cape Ray Gold Project or at Hermitage. But Hermitage is certainly an exciting target that we have. It's the largest arsenic and antimony anomaly in Newfoundland, and it's on the Hermitage flexure, which is the same belt that Newfound Gold is exploring. It is structurally unique, so very different to almost everything else in Newfoundland, which cuts from the southeast to the north. Sorry, from the southwest to the northeast. Hermitage is actually oriented in the exact opposite direction. It's site of 8 of the highest antimony anomalies on the island, as reflected here also in this map. So very early days here for us. I mean, there's been historical work there done by Teck, Falconbridge, and Inco, but it's early days for us, and this is certainly going to be part of our 2023 plan, looking at what exploration work we can do at Hermitage, along with the other targets that we have on the Cape Ray Shear. Next slide, please. And as far as corporate priorities, this slide hasn't actually changed very much. in the last little while or so, other than to say that the greenfield drilling that we had promised had commenced in early October. I should point out the drilling, again, it's focused on malachite. It's just to test some of the structures that you would have seen there in the map that I showed. It's to see if there's gold, not just in soils, but also gold in bedrock. Because it's a large area and because it's just a small drill program and just a test, it's an invaluable program to give us additional information in which we can then go and do further work for 2023. So again, in this world of exploration, there is no guarantee of success, but we do believe we're well situated in a top tier jurisdiction to make these major discoveries. And malachite is one of several targets that we do have. And so we will continue to advance these greenfield exploration targets in the portfolio. On the corporate side, we'll continue to look at enhancing the capital structure and look to expand our access to new capital markets. Many shareholders have heard me speak about taking Matador, making it into a dual listed issuer. That's certainly on the radar. Because we're in Newfoundland and a number of Canadians and North Americans understand the exploration environment in Newfoundland. And Canada is certainly a mining jurisdiction. It does make sense for us to have broader access to the capital markets here in Canada, and that's certainly a strategic initiative that we have for the company. And because of the nature of or what's going on with capital markets globally and the state of the economy, obviously a lot of mining companies have been under pressure. It's reflected in the different valuations and the share prices that we see, not just for producers, but exploration companies. When I joined the company 6 months ago, I believe that there was 75 TSX listed companies with some sort of interest in exploration in Newfoundland. I'm not sure what that number is today, but I believe it's going to be a lot less. And as the market conditions continue to be unfavorable, the companies that are in a much stronger position can certainly look to use that opportunity to take a strategic view and take a prudent approach to consolidation. Of my career in the mining industry, I believe in the need for consolidation. Producers, exploration companies do need to get together. We need to, we're stronger together than we are alone. And we certainly don't need to compete with one another for capital, for resources, for drill rigs, etc. So I really do see that as an opportunity. I wouldn't say that that's at the top of the priority list, but it's certainly on the radar, and we will take a prudent approach to consolidation. And finally, engagement is a key part of my approach to not just internal stakeholders, but external stakeholders. We want to ensure that we've got a good line of communications with all our stakeholders, both internal and external. We are available, and we will continue to update stakeholders on how we progress with the business activities on the ground, but also within the market as well. Next slide, please. And that was the last slide. So I do believe there was one question, at least one question that was asked regarding the B2 transaction. Brian, do you want to read that out or?
Yeah, I'll read that out. In relation to the recent transaction with B2 Gold, what is the rationale for agreeing to grant B2 Gold a 9.9% equity interest with an option to increase to 19.9% in Matador, as opposed to entering into a JV over the Malachite area only, especially as B2 Gold have specified that their investment must only be spent on Malachite unless agreed otherwise. Further, why has this transaction occurred after drilling has commenced at Malachite, but before any assays have been announced?
Okay, thank you for that, Brian, and thank you for that question. As Justin and I both mentioned, I mean, having B2 Gold's involvement in Matador is a big deal. It's a big deal for the shareholders. It's a big deal for our business, for stakeholders in Newfoundland. Big deal for Canada, and big deal for B2 shareholders as well too. It gives them exposure to a top tier jurisdiction. There's multiple ways we could have structured the deal. We were looking to again to maximize value for our shareholders. Going the joint venture route, presuming the person who asked the question was specifically thinking an earn-in arrangement on Malachite specifically. again, that certainly could have been an option that for us to consider as part of a transaction, and something that B2 traditionally does with other junior companies where they're invested in. But we hadn't done much work at Malachite. I mean, B2 Gold's interest, there were several areas of interest, Malachite being one of the key areas of interest for them, but we hadn't started drilling there. We'd only done obviously the geophysics work and geochemistry work, follow that up with some prospecting and sampling work. To get into a joint venture situation at this early stage of the project is premature. We don't know what Malachite is. We do believe Malachite has the potential to host a multi-million ounce system, but we don't know that. It's early days. We won't know that for a while. So if we strike an earn-in arrangement or joint venture with any company on a project like that, which has that potential, and we define that potential, I believe we've given up too much of the upside. So my preference was to have their involvement in Matador at the corporate level as opposed to the project level.
Okay. Did you have any other questions online? No. Right. Any questions in the room? For Sam? No? Right. Well, I'd like to thank you very much, Sam, for a terrific presentation. It's very informative for the shareholders. Given that we've completed all the formal activities, we've completed Sam's presentation, nice update. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone again for their attendance and continued support, and I'll close the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you.
Thanks.